So recently, Instagram have been running this experiment where they've banned likes on people's accounts so you can't see them. The main reason for it is due to it affecting people's mental health in a negative way, where people are getting more interested in the likes as opposed to what the photos and content are actually posting. I think it's quite a bold move from Instagram. I'm just going to put that out there from the start. It's massive because that's their social currency, basically, is likes. And I've got loads of different opinions on this, but I would like to open this up to both of you to start off. Like, what top line? What's your feelings on this?
Yeah, to be honest, I think like it's good that social media companies are at least being seen to do something and are trying to take it seriously. But I don't know what my personal opinion is of whether they should completely ban likes or not. But I think in this case that they're not going far enough with what they want to achieve, because people can now no longer see other people's likes, but you can still see your own likes. And I think that's really where a lot of the anxiety comes from, is people checking their own likes and getting obsessed with that. So I almost feel like it's the people it's going to harm are businesses who rely on having posts with a lot of likes for people to then want to go and check it and see their product is good or whatever. Whereas, I don't think this is going to go far enough, personally.
Oh, but that's interesting. So when you describe the business example, in some ways that sounds much more pure to me. As a business, I know if people in the world like my thing. I'm the only person who really needs to know that. But what you're saying is that it might harm businesses because people might be making a choice based on, do other people also like it? That feels different to me than something like reviews, where of course you want to know people's information.
I will be more likely to read a post if it has more likes, because that's like a review, that's like validation. And if something's got a few likes, I might not buy that product or read the post.
And is that because it helps you filter through the volume of information that's there?
I think basically it's like a review. Like the more people that have liked it, for me, that's like, well, this must be worth reading.
It's so interesting because it also creates a herd mentality, right? Where everybody you kind of can potentially end up in an echo chamber where everybody is reading the same thing, and so nobody has a diverse view or opinion or is doing anything that's different. And so in a funny way, that sets you just more on one single highway altogether, as opposed to the multiple diverse places you might end up.
100%. I think when I'm on Amazon or whatever, the first thing I'll do is scroll down to the reviews, and maybe that's not the best way to do it.
A review feels different to me than a like. I think to hear people's opinions and what they think, and they've already got this thing and they're saying, this was my experience of it, that feels very different to me than just seeing, do other people give this a yay or a nay on the whole. I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, I guess also, I'm not on Instagram. That feels really important to say. I've never been on Instagram. I haven't been on social media for 10 years. So I might not be the right person to weigh in on that. But I assume that people are liking like articles or images or whatever. That feels different to me than a product. It's sort of saying, do I think this is cool or not? Which is you're weighing in on a different thing.
That's fair. And I guess like coming back to the likes from a mental health point of view, Liam, I know you said you had a few opinions on it.
Yeah, I mean, I found a point interesting you said there about the anxiety of not having enough likes. Now, I'd love to know if that is someone feels that because they feel like they haven't got enough likes, or is embarrassing in front of other people.
That's what I'm curious about too.
Because I think those two things are separate, because it's the reason that someone's sitting there and they're annoyed that they've only got 10 likes in a photo because people are judging that, or are they actually needing those likes for validation? And that's the big difference, because from my point of view, and if it was worth mentioning that I'm probably the opposite, I use social media all the time. Instagram, I'm very, very weird about my Instagram, very OCD in ways. I'm making sure everything's perfect. Same with my YouTube channel. And if I don't get enough likes, it's not because I don't get upset and disappointed about it, but I feel like I would feel more validated if I did have more likes, and it would affect me in a positive way, I guess. I don't think I'd see the negative side of it, but it's just it's the devil's advocate, the other side of the coin. It's just sometimes I reckon that could work, and it could, I don't know, it could open it up for other people.
I think the thing about having it be public is that there's shame associated. People see you succeed or they see you fail. And it's not that success or failure isn't hard for us on our own personal thing. But, you know, the reason people write a blog post and then never publish it is because they're worried people are not going to like it. It's not the writing of the thing. So it's, you know, they might feel good about it, but they still might not publish it. So I think there's something about being seen to either succeed or fail publicly based on the number of likes you have or you don't have that does have a real impact on your mental health and how you feel about yourself in a way that it might still be an ouch if you post something and not a lot of people like it, but if you are the only one that knows, I almost wonder if that could be used more in a growth way. You know, okay, if you're trying to tailor something to an audience, okay, I need to do X, Y, and Z differently with less of the shame associated. I don't know if that's true. That's just my kind of gut instinct.
I think it's definitely undeniable at the moment that there is a correlation between the likes and the way it could affect someone's mental health. Otherwise, this conversation would never be happening.
Yeah.
Otherwise, Instagram wouldn't have put in these trials at the moment in 6 different countries they're trying, and there's a reason it's happening. I've heard stories of people who would take down photos after 10 minutes because it's not got enough likes.
Yeah.
And what does that mean? What's the reason they're taking it down? There's obviously some sort of shame behind it, or there's some sort of stress caused behind it, which is obviously not a great thing. But what they're introducing now, is that actually going to change anything? You've still got the option to go scroll through and see who's liked your photos and other people's photos. If you really were interested, you could go through and count it, and it's still there. Is this actually solving an issue right now, or is this just a bigger problem that's not been addressed properly?
Yeah, I don't have a good relationship with likes. They kind of, I don't see them as a positive thing, because I think they're almost used as like a measure of someone's character now, or how like how successful they are. And I think when I was really struggling, so when I was in like my darkest place, I was basically suicidal. So in my head, my life was like a mess. But I didn't want anyone else to see that side to me, because I didn't want them to think I was weak or not a real man or whatever. So I would carefully select photos from my life to upload on Instagram with all of the filters and the saturation. I'd spend ages, like hours, making these photos look amazing. I spend hours on the caption, making the caption incredible. Upload it as a way of trying to show that my life was actually perfect. And then all of the likes I got was like a validation of that. It was like people telling me that, we're jealous of you, or your life is amazing.
Well, and it's reinforcing, show us this version's okay. You know, we accept you, you're okay for us when you're like this, if you're living this high-flying, amazing life.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It's also reinforcing the idea that any other part presumably wouldn't be okay.
Yeah, and then I think if you don't get the likes, then it just made me feel even worse. I think there was 2 things. That one, I wanted other people to see the likes so they could almost get jealous of that, but then I wanted them for myself to kind of validate my own life. So Instagram removing other people seeing it would take away one part, but there's still, I know I would still be checking my own likes as like a way of validating that maybe I was okay.
Well, and the studies of behavioral addiction, part of the reason social media actually like taps into the addiction parts of our brain is because we get to see things like likes. You know, it's like getting points on a level in a video game or whatever it is. We want to see progress and improvement, and it's a way that you can feel like, okay, I'm getting something back, and we get a dopamine hit every time we get it. It feels good for us, so we want more of it. So it makes sense to me that it removes some part, but it still is potentially problematic. It definitely is not as neutral. But I can also understand why Instagram as a business would feel too risky. I mean, I think it's quite a bold move, exactly as you said, to remove the ability to see other people's likes in some countries, but it would be even bolder to take it away altogether. And then I wonder if people would still use the platform. Because, of course, there's the sharing element, but there is something about it becomes more of a conversation. Now, a conversation based perhaps on unhealthy or unuseful things, but it is a conversation between you and
how many followers you're on, how many likes have you got on your photos, etc.
Yeah.
I mean, would you argue that you're still not very similar to that in that story you just said there? I mean, you post a lot of LinkedIn videos, right? And every couple of minutes after uploading the video, you will be checking how many likes you've got.
He's calling me out.
Yeah, I'm calling you out, but like, because I don't see it as unhealthy when I see you do it, and maybe I think it was a different scenario when you were in that place, but does that mean if you're in an okay state at the time and you feel okay, does that mean it's acceptable to do that? Where's the line? Where's the difference? Because I'd argue that they're not any different. It's just a mental mind thing at the time.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to someone's intent, like why they're using the platform, why they're doing what they're doing. I think back then I was uploading because I wanted to show off this perfect life that didn't exist, and I needed likes to validate that. Now I use social media as like a creative outlet and to try and help people with my content on LinkedIn. So the purpose is very, very different. I'd still argue I probably do have an unhealthy relationship with like LinkedIn now. Like you say, I check it all the time for likes, and I think in a way it can almost, I'm going on LinkedIn for a pure reason and to upload content to help people, but then I get obsessed with the likes and maybe I kind of lose sight of the reason I'm doing it sometimes. But the intent is much better this time. So the relationship feels healthier, although I do think I could be better with it.
Well, and it sounds like a big part of what's different is you are trying to share a real version of yourself, whereas previously you were trying to share the fantasy version. And that does feel like it has a different substance behind it.
Yeah, and I think whatever you put out online, it is almost like an extension of you. So I think that any content I do share, although it's not me, I feel like it is me. So if people don't like it, I'm like, oh, they don't like me.
Yeah.
So I need the likes to prove that, right?
Well, and I think that's part of the reason people might argue that social media is problematic, because I think it feels like that for a lot of people.
And I've taken Facebook and Twitter off my phone, and I think one day I will take Instagram off my phone, because I know that when I upload a photo, I'm waiting for likes. I probably wouldn't upload it if there was no likes, so I'm waiting for it. And if I don't get enough, it does make me feel a bit shit, even though I don't want it to. And I don't want that control, to have that control over my life. So I think one day Instagram will go.
It's interesting. So I used to be on Facebook back in the day. That's the thing that was going on.
When it was cool.
Yeah, exactly. But I did not. So I would put some photos up, but I really didn't upload much. I think because I was afraid that it would not be well enough received, and then I would be exposed as, I don't know, not having a good enough life or whatever it was, and that it felt much safer and more comfortable to just do it in a really limited way and be like, oh, I'm not engaged with this thing, than to potentially, I don't know, risk exposing something. But then I think when I first was on Facebook, other people you weren't so easily tagged in other people's photos, or it took more effort. And then it started happening. Other people started putting things on, and then you can't control your image quite as much, because whatever's happening, I mean, it's their version of a really good life. Might not be what yours is. And I don't know, when I went off Facebook, I went off because what I noticed is I'd be at work, I would try to go do something, and then 20 minutes later I'd be like, where the fuck have I just been? And I would have been down this Facebook hole, and it would make me feel bad basically every time. I would always feel like I was somehow inadequate compared to everybody else and how they were living, how fun their life was, how exciting, how filled with love, whatever. And I found as soon as I went off, I felt significantly better. And I thought it would be temporary, but was like, oh, I don't need that thing in my life.
Yeah, I find it interesting that they were things that were popping up for you while you were on Facebook, and these problems, because I don't ever remember Facebook being at the level that Instagram is now.
You sound too much older.
No. As in the level of satire that is on Instagram, the fact that there's people who are editing their photos to make them look like a different person, or editing them to put them in a place that they've never been to. That's the level that we're at on Instagram now.
That didn't exist on Facebook.
Yeah, and that's the concern. I think that's where these problems are coming from, because people will look at someone's feed and go, oh my God, look at all these great things they're doing. Look at the way that person looks. Look at the way their skin is perfect. Whereas some of that stuff may not even be the case. And that's where the problems, it seems to be bigger on Instagram, because it's become this, I don't know, journal of things that doesn't really exist at this point.
But I would say that's a magnified version of what everybody is doing anyways, right? You are tailoring, you're curating your life, and you're only showing the photos where you look really great, or you're only showing the photos where it seems like you're having a really fun time. Even if you're not falsifying things, you are curating really carefully. So I think that that's more of a magnification of a thing that has always been there.
Possibly. And I think it's kind of got to the stage now, obviously, where Instagram have had to take this action, and it'd be interesting to see how it plays out for sure, and whether this works after these trials, and whether there needs to be another step above it, whether likes just needs to be taken out completely.
Because I kind of see it as they say that you need to get better at, one needs to get better at controlling their own habits on the platform, but then I see it as another addictive vice. There's controls over alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, but then we're given this huge platform and told that we just need to figure out for ourselves. And I think that's wrong, because it is just as damaging mentally as alcohol is physically.
They still get their hit on the likes somehow. They'll
Yeah.
find the hits.
Yeah.
They'll find a way to get their likes.
Yeah, no, and it is addictive. I mean, and it is designed to be addictive. It is not like accidentally, whoops, turns out people are getting addicted to this. It is actually addictive. And I think that's problematic. What I think is so interesting about this is a company as big as Instagram choosing to do something that, for everything I can see, it seems to just be because they think it's the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe it is a publicity stunt, but even then, it feels still like it is because it is the right thing to do. And there are very, very few companies who make decisions where it might potentially hurt their business because they don't want to be making money off of what they are profiting from. And it sounds like, you know, in some form, Instagram is testing out, can we survive without profiting from people feeling badly about themselves or, you know, the shame and all that stuff that's involved? I think that that's an incredibly interesting thing. And it feels to me like, I don't know, it's tied to some of the more like activism stuff that you see people getting interested in, whether it's around climate change or mental health. That I think it's a really cool big step. I have more respect for Instagram as a company. Not a company that I use, but I still respect them more as a company based off this.
Yeah, I think they've had a lot of backlash from it so far, and they've stood firm. So I completely agree with you, and I think, as you said, Liam, I'm excited to see what the results are and I guess how far the conversation goes in the future, really.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see. There's not many social media things that I'm curious what happens, but I am.
Cool. So we'll do this again in a year. See what's
Yeah,
happened.
we'll come back, see if there's been an update on that and whether it's been a positive move, which you'd love to think it would be.
And ironically, when this goes up on the internet, please like it and
Yeah.
share it. Yeah.
If this doesn't get 10 likes, we'll delete it.
Delete. Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
Au revoir.